myself or only to Thomas. And we are here, 27 people now, so that's great. Perfect. So let's move on. Our agenda seems very simple, but there is a lot to cover in each of these small items. And we will start by talking how to recognize the signs of chaos, how to move from disorder to order, how to prevent future chaos, and hopefully by the end of the presentation, we still have time for Q&A. I will be more than happy to share with you some more insights and answer all your questions. A few weeks ago, I was exactly in this place that I'm here right now, looking at my laptop in my living room. That is when I work, and I started smelling a bit funny. I looked to the door that is on my right, and I like it and said, "Is that smoke?" And I started walking to the kitchen, and then I remembered, oh gosh, I forgot the bread in the oven. Who else is like me that just get distracted when he's doing something? Write me in the chat. It happens to me a lot, I have to tell him. I start doing something, then I move to another thing, I get distracted, and something happens. So I went to the kitchen all the time. Yes, Maria, so that's me as well. I'm sure that others are just a bit shy to tell us, but we are not the only ones in this group, I can imagine. So the bread was ruined, I have to tell you, and oh, never got fried. Wow. And I had to find something different to do for dinner. And I forgot to tell you that the bread was bread with chorizo. I hope you know what chorizo is. It's a very typical Spanish thing. Although I'm Portuguese, my husband is Spanish. So I decided to rip apart the bread and pulling out the chorizo. And you know what I did? I just did an omelette with the chorizo. It was very tasty. Dinner was not ruined after all. I just had to actually find a different solution for that. Yes, my home was a little smoky for a few days, that's true, but we had a very nice dinner. And you know what happened in the middle of this? I didn't panic. I didn't give up. I found a different solution, and everyone was happy at the end. And that is what a great problem solver does, right? So let's see how we can do the same in our projects. We need to start really by recognizing the signs. In my situation was the smell, was the smoke that was coming from the kitchen. But how do we do this in our projects? It's not really something that is very hard, but sometimes we don't pay attention to these things. So I want to start by asking you a question. If you please can type in the chat, what are the 3 main challenges you face in your projects? Milul, yes, I completely understand what you are saying. Definitely happening more often than I'd like. Me too. I would prefer to just pay attention to everything around me, but sometimes it's not easy, right? So can you please write in the chat what are the 3 main challenges you face in your projects? You don't really need to be very specific. Just tell me 1 or 2 words. Changes just done by someone, chaotic change requests, people not available, team management, unexpected delays, sudden changes, dependencies. Oh, yes, lots of those. So I asked exactly the same question to more than 200 project and program managers. They have to tell you that the list is very similar to what you are telling me. Resources, budget, completely. I'm just sharing here with you in this slide some of the challenges that people shared with me. The most common ones in these more than 200 project and program managers that I asked was stakeholder engagement, lack of resources, and scope creep. Which is interesting in all of these things that we see here is that usually they are symptoms of something else. If we think, for example, about frequent misunderstandings, it's probably more an issue around communication. If we think about resistance to change, it's human being nature, right? We don't really usually like too much of change. And if we think about constant issues with the deliverables, It's probably lack of quality on the process or lack of motivation from the team. There's so many different reasons that can be behind of all these things, right? So when we think about challenges, our initial reaction is about the symptoms and the signs. We need also to be much more intentional in the way we find these signs and these symptoms, because that is the first thing that we see and show us that we have a real problem. So there are, and I'm bringing 4 ways that we can recognize these signs or these symptoms. And it's around data. We can analyze data, KPIs, risks, all the data that you can have. One caveat here is don't look to the numbers just for the number, right? Try to get really the context around that number, because a number is really just a number if you don't put it in the middle of a context. We need to start observing much more, observing the patterns, the behaviors, the events. Sometimes we have conflicts among our team members and we don't really understand what's happening. We need to start deep diving, really being more aware of those and start deep diving to really understand the problems. We need to listen, but to listen really to understand what's going on. Sometimes we have conversations with others. We need to start looking to those expressions, the tone. I know that now virtually, and that's why I was asking also to put your camera on. Virtually, it's hard, right? We don't see people, the expression from people, but we need to start reading between the lines. It's so important to do this. And we need also to follow our intuition. And you may ask, why should we do this? I'm also a very logical person, I have to tell you. It took me a while to learn to really hear my intuition, but it's important because as PMs, we are in the middle of the situation. Somehow we know that something is wrong. So really trust that something is wrong and deep dive on it. That's really, really important. So this is the way we need to start be more aware and more alert to really recognize the signs that a problem exists. And sometimes we don't even actually need to do this because the problem is so evident that it's there, right? We just need to look and see the problem. So at this point, we understood how we recognize the signs that we have, right? Remember, coming back to my kitchen, for me it was, or my living room, for me was really the smell and the smoke, but there is always behind a real problem and a very important problem to solve. In my case was bread that was burning, was ruining my dinner, but there are lots of other, in project management, lots of problems that can just be behind a sign. So I have another question for you before we deep dive on this. How do we experience, and looking back to the list, remember the list that I showed you, the most common problem that project managers were referring was the stakeholder engagement. So I would like to ask you, why do you feel that we experience lack of stakeholder engagement in our initiatives? If you please can write in the chat. Not enough time, work overload by stakeholders, silence, because management has other things to do, probably different priorities, right? The stakeholders not feeling inclusive, yes. They were not involved since the beginning. We are not doing the right thing, wrong communication strategy, closed. You see, oh gosh, we could spend really the rest of our afternoon and evening just talking about stakeholder management, right? Because there are so many things that can be involved in lack of stakeholder engagement. And all of this that you are saying is right. We just need to start deep diving on these, but stakeholder engagement per se is not really the problem. There are something behind this. So that is usually the first step of the framework that I use to solve problems. And this may seem very complex with lots of steps. It's very simple to use it. I'm sure that you do these already without really thinking that you are going through all these steps. It's something that is very natural, I would say. And the first thing is really identify this root cause, right? We need to go behind the symptom, behind the sign, behind the smoke and the smell. We need to understand exactly where the problem is. And you listed lots of different problems here. And we could actually continue, I could actually continue deep diving in each of these things. And probably there are other problems behind all of these things that you listed here, right? So identify this root cause is really, really important to understand what is the real problem, because what we really need to fix, it's the real problem, not the symptom. There are several different techniques that we can use to deep dive on this root cause. Then, in nowadays, we have such complex problems that sometimes it's even overwhelming to think about that. Imagine fixing them. So one of the things that we should do all the time is breaking them in smaller problems. It's much easier to solve, much easier to discuss, much easier to try to understand the problem, and will be quicker also to celebrate, right? Because we fix a smaller one quicker. There is one caveat on this one, that is when we break down a problem, we need to be aware and we need to keep in mind all the dependencies that that can bring. Okay, because when we solve that problem, we need to understand if there are dependencies that we need to consider. So that's an important one. And after that, we need to prioritize our list, right? We will have a list of problems after we do all these steps, and we need to prioritize those problems. And for that, it is important that we need to consider the time, the budget, really look to your success criteria, because it is important that the problems that you are solving are really the ones that bring impact to your project and your company. So it's really important to prioritize this. So the initial 3 steps give us the list of problems that we have to solve. And then what you need to do is go one by one, and following hopefully the priorities that we set, following one by one and really try to solve it. How do we start doing that? We analyze, we collect, we gather information, and that can be data, can be research, can be talking just with stakeholders and with your team, and try to identify what is working, not working, really try to understand what is the information that you are collecting for that specific problem. Identify then solutions. And when I say you, we here as project managers usually are not really the ones bringing solutions, right? We have SMEs, we have the teams working on this. So they are probably the ones finding the solution. If we are the ones that need to find a solution for that specific problem, if it is a problem more around project management, the communication, our leadership style, obviously we should be the ones finding solutions. I still would say bring others' perspectives because it is important. And then we need to make decisions. And again, we may not be the ones making the decisions, but we need to bring others to make those decisions. And we need to bring the solutions, the pros and cons to that conversation and share with who needs to make that specific decision. So one of the things that we as PMs need to have is always in mind, and hopefully in a document, who make what decisions, to just in this step bring that personal, those key stakeholders to make the decision. And then we need to make sure, because fixing problems usually requires time, requires resources, we need to review our plan, our timeline, to understand what is the impact as well, right? So that's another step that is important to do. Once we have this decision made and we know the impact in our plan, it is very important that we communicate, and we communicate clearly what we are doing, that everyone understands. We may need to tailor a bit the way we deliver the message to different stakeholders, but the message should be unique. That is the decision and what is the impact. And obviously, we don't solve problems if we don't implement the solutions, right? So the last step is really the implementation and keep monitoring this. I have a note at the bottom of this slide. It is really important that we involve the team, our key stakeholders, and the sponsors as well in solving the problems. Someone was mentioning that sometimes the problem with the stakeholder management is lack of involvement. it is lack of involvement. Sometimes the lack of motivation of our teams is also lack of involvement. So it is important that we bring stakeholders and teams with us, and the sponsors as well, because they need to be aware of what is going on. I'm not saying that we should do this for all the problems. Pick the right problems and the right stakeholders that need to be involved, for sure. Having a framework like this make problem solving much easier. But a framework is just a framework, right? It's a bunch of steps. We need much more than a framework to solve problems. So I want to talk to you about technical skills. Technical skills are referred as hard skills as well. So are those specific and teachable abilities that we have that help us to deliver, to execute a task, right? I can learn a technical skill through education, training. I can show my technical skills with a certification or a diploma, for example. And those technical skills are really, for example, and we are here talking in the PMI chapter, so are the methodologies, are the processes that we learn, are the deliverables, all the documentation that we should have. Those are the technical skills that as a project manager to solve a problem, I must have and I must know, right? Those are really crucial and essential when I search for a job, for example, because I can show that I know what I'm doing. But the problem with these technical skills is that they can become outdated when technology and when things evolve, right? And that's a real case right now with AI. So these technical skills, when I do a report, I can ask AI to do a report. So these technical skills is something that are really important as a project manager. But by themselves and alone, they are not enough to be a great project manager and a great problem solver. So I want to bring to you another concept, that is the concept of power skills. And you probably already heard about this because it's a term that PMI talks a lot as well. I don't know if you know, but power skills was a term that was popularized by Josh Bersin in 2019. Josh is a very well-known HR and talent development analyst, and he wrote this article about power skills. That was really an article about soft skills, but he mentioned that soft skills are so critical and impactful skills that they are really powerful. So he say, and because of that, he was calling power skills. And he's also saying in that article that these skills are actually not soft at all, and they are essential for success. And I couldn't agree more with him. I already mentioned AI. With all the automations and AI right now, these technical skills are important. But what we really need to master as project managers to make sure that we keep going and we evolve and we are really good are these power skills. The technical skills help us to do the job for sure, but the power skills really help us excel in this role. In this role, it's important. So, in my opinion, and this is something that I share, it's mine, okay, it's not a copy from anyone. In order to be really a great project manager, we need to master 3 pillars. Okay, the technical skills for sure, the values and purpose, and the power skills. Let me deep dive in each of these. In terms of technical skills, and I already talked a bit about these, is that the methodologies, is risk management, budgeting, scheduling, putting a communication plan together. All these are really important because when we are managing a project, we need to understand what is the next thing that we need to do. That helps us to control the complexity of a project, right? As a project manager, we need to have our values and the purpose to do this. Otherwise, it's very hard, right? We need to understand why we are doing this. how we are doing it. That is really important. And I'm not only talking about values and purpose for the company that are very important because we need to align our projects with those goals, right? But I'm talking also about our personal values and our personal purpose. They need to be aligned with the values and the purpose of the company. Because otherwise, if you lose your purpose, you will be lost, right? So values and purpose for sure are very important for a very good project management. And finally, the power skills. And I talk about 5 power skills. For me, those 5 are really the essential skills that we need to have as project managers. Problem solving, that is really what we are talking about today. That is really about navigating these obstacles and issues that we have every day, right? We know that. Is leadership that Thomas was referring to as well, that is really inspiring and aligning and empowering the stakeholders to come with us and follow us, right? It's leading by example. The communication, it's so important. I already saw in some of your comments, communication. It's really important to have these clear messages and stay connected with everyone through communication. Strategic thinking. How many people in this group and how many project managers already heard we need to be more strategic, right? We need to be more thinking more strategically. And that is really seeing the big picture, is anticipating risks, opportunities, is that ability to zoom in and zoom out. That is really about strategic thinking. And finally, the growth mindset, that is keep learning, adapting. Adaptability is so important and is really growing from these issues, from these problems that we have every day. So all these power skills, in my opinion, are not soft at all. They are really, really important to lead all this complexity that we have in today's world, right? And it's only when we combine all of these, the technical, the values and purpose, and the soft skills or power skills, that we really become a great project manager. We are here today to talk this specific problem-solving pillar, right? So I have another question for you. From your perspective, what makes a great problem solver? Write, please, a few words in the chat. What are the traits, the behaviors that you believe a project manager should have to be a great problem solver? To listen, for sure. Stay calm and find facts. Yes, listening. Analysis skills, but also decision taking, inclusive, knowing the expectations, out of the box thinking. I love that one. Be very creative, capacity to ask questions. Absolutely. Empathy, stay non-biased, and welcome difference and conflicts. Yes, understanding objectives. Absolutely, all of that. I bring to you 3 main ones that I believe are essential for any project manager if we want really to solve problems. And you keep coming. Ability to split bigger problems in steps. Focus on problem, not on guilty person, and bring exactly, not pointing fingers, right? Ownership of the problem and solution. Experience, yes. So in my opinion, there are these three abilities under the problem-solving pillar that are so important to solve problems and really navigate in the middle of the chaos that we have and we know so well that we have in our projects. And it is critical thinker. We really need, and you mentioned here, that is really deep dive on problems, is breaking down big problems in smaller ones, is assess situations analytically, right? To lead to informed decision making, as you mentioned as well. To be creative. Do you remember my situation? I had a problem. I was creative with that. We need to be creative. We need to find solutions to complex problems. Even if you try to apply a solution that you applied in a similar problem before, may not work because you are talking about different people working in that different projects. And the project is like a living world, right? A living thing. So it is important to be creative, to bring different solutions, and resilient for sure. I believe someone mentioned resilience as well. Resilience for sure. We need to, even if we fail, we need to actually get back from that setback, right? And we need to be calm under pressure. We need to adapt. So that's really important. There is a quote that I really like that defines for me, from my perspective, resilience very well. Life is not about how many times you fall down. It's about how many times you get back up. That's exactly what resilience is for me. Do you remember still my situation? So let's get back to my kitchen and all the mess that I had in the kitchen. I didn't panic. I executed a mitigation plan. I asked my son to open all the windows to avoid the fire alarm to go off. So that was a mitigation plan. I found a solution for dinner that I thought it was ruined. But no, I made an omelette with the chorizo that was still somehow good. I delivered my output because the dinner was actually served on time. And I achieved my outcome. Everyone was happy with the dinner. So I solved it with critical thinking, with a creative solution, and I didn't give up. So that's really how we should do it. And that's why I picked these 3 abilities that I really find are so important to be a problem solver. So the skills that we need to move from the disorder to order or chaos to order are exactly the same that we need to use to prevent future chaos. What changes is our mindset. Okay? When we move from chaos, we are already in the middle of the problem. So to move to order, we need to react to the situation. If we want to prevent chaos, we need to be more proactive. But we use exactly the same skills. You use the technical skills, you use the soft skills, and you obviously in the middle are your purpose and your values. So the mindset is what is different. So how do we do that? We are the project managers that know our stuff, right? So the technical skills again here. We need to have a good plan and a timeline, but not a very strict plan and timeline. It needs to be adaptable, okay? So maintain your plan and timeline, but really be adaptable. You know that problems will come. Keep prioritizing this. This is really key. Do continuous risk assessment. It's really important that you keep looking to the risks, you keep talking about risks, and you really have ideas how to mitigate those plans, right? Change control process is really important to have. We cannot avoid changes. It's important to track them because we cannot avoid them. They will occur for sure. So ensure that they are documented and reviewed and approved before any kind of implementation as well. And then the meetings are important. I know that lots of meetings don't really have a very good agenda. They are not really so specific. And sometimes we are just having the meeting and we cannot control stakeholders. And at the end, we don't really get the outcomes that we have. But meetings are still important, even more if they are to brainstorm about the problem, right? So continue doing those meetings, but bring the key stakeholders, people that you really need. Don't try to bring everyone. I know that sometimes we just schedule a meeting with a few people and suddenly we have 100 people in the meeting because one invited the other, one thought that was important. Keep them short, keep them important, relevant, and keep them limited to the key stakeholders. That's really important. And always have meaningful goals for those meetings. And then it is important to document the decisions that were made during the process, right? For future reference. We forget about things. It's normal. We have so much to deal with. So keep documenting those decisions and maintain the documentation and make sure that the documentation is accessible by everyone. It is important that we are transparent as well. So this is all about the technical skills that we need to have to solve the problems. Let's now see how we can actually all the soft skills or the power skills that we need to have. So we need to be a very good problem solver. And for me here, the key is resilience. Okay? We need to solve our day-to-day challenges. Those are a priority, right? We need to consider different solutions. We need to get different perspectives. We really need to be resilient for all of that. Because if in the first setback we just give up, we won't get there. So resilience is really important. Now I will talk about the other power skills that are very important as well to solve problems. It's not only to be a problem solver. We need all the other ones. Even the framework show that we need to communicate, right? So be a great communicator is really important. And doesn't mean to be a loud person, right? We need to be clear and effective. I like simple and direct language. Okay, avoid jargon. I know that as project managers, we use lots of terms that are very appropriated and relevant for project management. The majority of our stakeholders, they don't understand, they don't know. So keep really a direct language and very simple language and keep the message easy to digest. As a leader, we need to really have emotional intelligence. We need to lead by example. We need to show up the way we want others will do as well. Ask for feedback and act on it if you want to be a better leader every day. Because sometimes we have these blind spots that we don't understand what's going on, and others can help us with that. So being a leader is exactly that as well, right? It's a two-way feedback, I would say. Strategic thinker. So your approach must guide us and must guide everyone to results, right? We need to have the big picture, and we need also to know the details. So again, is that zoom in and zoom out that we hear about, right? It's so important. And cultivate a growth mindset. So be flexible, adaptable, understand that mistakes are a natural part of learning. And I know you may tell me, yeah, it's good to say, but sometimes organizations are not really willing to make us learn with mistakes, right? I understand that. But listen, if we do a mistake, it's natural. We are human beings. What we need to understand and what we need to do is learn from it. Lessons learned are important. So don't shy away from mistakes. They are important. And really embrace the challenges, right? Go for it. That's the way we learn. So I have a few tips for you, practical ones that you can start. I don't say today because probably it's already evening for you all, but tomorrow you can start with this. So question assumptions. I have to tell you that assumptions are the worst, okay? We need to start asking much more and don't assume things. That is really an important one. Ask to understand, ask to learn. Don't make assumptions. It's really bad when we do it. It's usually a problem when we do assumptions. And I saw lots of comments around active listening. That's for sure. Start tomorrow. Start really being aware if you are trying to listen really to understand, or if you are trying to listen to respond, just to respond to others. Make an effort to really listen. You will pick so much if you will listen what others are doing. And you will pick lots of problems, I have to tell. Engage in reflective practice. What's working, what's not working, get that feedback, try to understand what's going on. And think, reflect, do some retros for the project and for yourself. That's really important also. Foster an open communication and be the one that people want to talk to. Some time ago, I was talking with a project manager that was telling me there are lots of meetings around me that I don't know about, and people, instead of coming to me, are actually talking among themselves. Just have that open feedback. Talk with your stakeholders. What's going on? Be that open person and talk with them. They will want to talk with you as well. Build strong relationships. I can't stress this enough. This is really, really important. do whatever you want to do, but really build these relationships with your, at least your key stakeholders. I know that sometimes we have so many stakeholders, but at least with your key stakeholders, it's so important. If you involve them, if you have a good relationship, they will be there to support you, okay? And as a project manager, you are the face of your project. You need support from stakeholders. So strong relationships for sure. And start master your power skills. And how can you do that? How can you start mastering your power skills? Evaluate your power skills. We can start with these 5 power skills. You can look to the list of power skills that the PMI has. You can look to other lists. You can think about what could be your power skills and assess them and set realistic goals. Define exactly what you want to improve. Don't try to improve everything at once. A power skill, the soft skill, is not easy to improve, okay? Sometimes it's habits that we've created throughout the years, throughout our career. So it's not easy, but you can do it. It is possible. It is possible to improve and master the power skills. It's something that we can learn. So, but takes time. So be realistic in what you really want to do. And invest in growth. Power skills usually don't come with training, unfortunately, okay? When we have training around project management, we hear about communication, we hear about leadership, but it's not exactly what is taught, right? It's more around the certification and technical skills. But try to invest in training, try to invest in mentoring, to really grow in those master skills that you need to and want to. And at least, last, not least, commit and take action, okay? You may say, yeah, I need really to improve here, but I'm so busy today, I'm so busy tomorrow, and you never actually improve. So really take action. Start today doing this. I have one last quote for you that I really like about problem solving and about problems. That was Tony Robbins. I'm not sure if you know who Tony Robbins is. He said, every problem is a gift. Without problems, we would not grow. And that's exactly it. Is when we are in the middle of a crisis, is when we are in the middle of finding solutions and outside of our comfort zone that we grow. So problems are actually very important for us to grow. So don't shy away from them. Don't run away from the problems. They are important. And now a bit about me. Thomas already did some of the introduction, so I won't go further. If you want to just scan this QR code, it will give you to a page where I have more information about me, so you can learn more about me. But yes, I have more than 25 years of experience in several different roles, and more than 20 years as project and program manager. I'm currently a personal and professional development coach, and Thomas was mentioning project and program management coach. Yes, because I dedicate my coaching practice to project and program managers. And I help project and program managers to lead with confidence, to move through the ambiguity that we have in the majority of our projects and progress in the careers while enjoying the journey, because I know that sometimes there are many days that we don't really enjoy what we do because it's hard, right? And this is me. Reach out. I have my contacts here. Reach out. Feel free to reach out. You have my LinkedIn profile here and my email. I would be very happy to talk with you. I have something here to share with you. If you would like to learn more about power skills and practical tips, I have this 5-day email course. It's free if you want to register. Every day during 5 days, you get an email about each of these power skills that we talked about, and practical tips. So if you want, I would say that if you want to scan the QR code, but I can also add these to the chat, the link, that maybe it's easier if you want to go there. And finally, because I'm here with you, I want to offer you something, but unfortunately, we are 30 in this call. I don't really have the time to talk with 30, but I have 6 spots available if you want to have a mentoring session with me. So if you want to do that, and I would be very happy to talk with you about whatever you want. I would say more related with project management or program management, but if it is about your life, I'm also happy to talk with you about your life. So book a session. It's tomorrow. It's the day that I reserved to talk with you. There is 6 spots only, so please go to the link and just reserve the best spot for you. I would be very happy to talk with you. And finally, thank you. Here are my contacts again. Just reach out and I would be very, very happy to talk with you. And finally, Q&A. Let me stop sharing because I really want to see you. So yes. Questions, and oh yes.
Thank you, Raquel. So it's not a question I have now, but I want to thank you to share your insights into the power skills, and I must admit, when we might change the name from soft skills or leadership skills to power skills, I was not so really satisfied with that, because also in some environments, we also think, okay, we should as leaders be a little bit powerless. We should not force people to do something, and power skills seemed somehow to
have the power.
reflect a little bit more power, which is true. In the end, you have soft power over people, and one of the things we do is we influence people. If we wouldn't influence them, we wouldn't have followers, and we wouldn't be leaders, and we would get nowhere. So we have to do that. And thank you again for the insight, and thank you for the gift for 6 of us.
Thank you for having me. And Thomas, just a comment about that. It's a very nice perspective what we are talking about. It is exactly, the power seems that we have the power, and usually we don't really have the power, right? We should influence without that power. But from a personal perspective, power skills are actually a great term, in my opinion, because they are really powerful, right? Those soft skills. And on the other hand, soft skills seem so soft, but they are so important to have. So yes, I completely understand your point of view. It's a very interesting one. I was coming from a different perspective, but yes, very good.
Well, often, we say hard skills because they are skills that are procedural, that are rational, that are process-oriented, all this stuff. And the soft skills are less rational,
Yes.
I'm not saying they're irrational, but they involve human biases and feelings, emotions, and habits, and so on. And so they're a little bit more soft to grasp. That's maybe the point here. Anyhow, so I don't want to hold you back from giving us or giving Raquel comments. Gottfried, you want to speak up?
Yes. Can you hear me? I am not sure if.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to start with to oppose you. So you did a statement with stop doing assumptions, and you got agreement. So you get applause for this sentence from the rest of the audience. And I would like to oppose and say no. If we stop with assumptions, we will never start a project.
Yep, and I agree with you. So let me just say what I was mean by that, because if you make assumptions that are agreed with everyone and everyone knows about those, for me are not assumptions, okay? So that's the difference between an assumption that I'm making and no one else knows, with something that I'm making, but I'm asking questions and people can tell me, I don't know at the moment. Okay, so we need to assume that this happens. And throughout the project, we will clarify those as well, right? So that is what I mean, is don't assume just for the sake of assuming and say, I'm assuming now that, I don't know, suddenly I don't have any assumption to share with you, but imagine an assumption that at the beginning we have, but we don't talk with anyone, okay? No one knows. So keep asking, ask about that. So as soon as you ask, and as soon as you try to clarify, everyone knows about that, everyone agrees, and that is not really an assumption, Okay. For me, an assumption is I'm assuming things that no one knows, but I will say, yeah, this will happen.
Okay.
But you are right.
That
We
means,
need to have assumptions at the beginning. That's for
yeah.
sure.
So
Because we
yeah,
don't know everything, right?
yeah. So that means you need for important things you need some type of an assumption log which is known to everyone and agreed on everyone. Then I
Yeah.
will agree. Then we can start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Because we need really to clarify those, right? It's important, you know what? Because it happened to me years ago at the beginning. I was assuming something, okay? And I didn't really discuss with anyone. And I find out later that a few stakeholders actually had the response for that. So I always say, don't assume things and go and ask, because there are probably a few people that know the answer. You are just assuming because you don't know everything, right? Thank
Okay,
you,
then
Gottfried. Thank you. Very good question. We have
Milu, you
more.
raised
Yeah.
your hand and you lowered it again, but if you want to say something,
Yeah,
please do.
yeah, first of all, please call me Marcos. That's my first name. I don't know, here on Teams it
Ah.
appears umgekehrt, so reversed. I was the one that uploaded the topic of the assumptions before, so that's why I raised my hand, because what I uploaded was the question the assumptions point, because I've also learned that assumptions are needed, because they are needed to start and run projects, programs, plans, whatever, but they can be also very dangerous, and so they need to be questioned. I think one of the most I'm learning that one of the most powerful, I will put that also in power skills for in our role, is to really be capable to ask questions and the right questions, and that's one topic that also, yes, as a big relevance with assumptions, with everything really, to risk assessment and so on, can be a key in uncovering a lot of stuff that usually goes
Yep.
undetected until it's
And
too late.
Marco, you just said something very important and interesting, that is make the right questions in the right time as well, right?
Yes.
It's so important. And that's why one of our key things should be listen. When we listen, we probably have the great timing to ask the right questions. So that's really, really important. Yes, thank you, Marco.
And Marco, let me make a comment on assumptions. We make assumptions how we should present our names. Last names first, last names last. And so from we have several people who put their last names first. And, because we have the assumption that we should in other ways, there is a lot of manual effort on our side to repair the database we have and to put the first names in. But if we know that, sometimes we get it because some last names are not really first names. But that's another assumption. You take and we take. Yeah. Anybody else? Maria, we have something in the chat from Maria.
Yes, indeed. It's an interesting thing how assuming, and Gottfried began the entire conversation about assumption, but I got myself several times in my career to observe negative interactions based exactly because of wrong assumptions, or acting based on assumptions without investigating, without being curious. And not, I agree with Gottfried, that because you cannot start a project if you don't use the assumptions. But in terms of managing stakeholders, their engagement, interactions, making people happy, you cannot just rely on your assumptions. You have to dive deep in and remove all the biases. And I have seen how negatively can influence our trajectory of the project if we assume just that the biggest stakeholder, that is the most important, for example, has the inclination that will negatively influence our project. And that's just because, let's say, the sales department or the one manager who had negative interactions or not the best interaction with that specific stakeholder influences my opinion, for example. And if I remove everything and I completely follow what people are telling me, with and basing myself on the assumption, it's going to ruin the trajectory of the project. So I really have to the way how I trusted my gut, and I just opened curiously the conversation with that stakeholder. It turned out to be very kind and pleasant person. But I've witnessed similar interactions in my environment where assumptions can ruin a lot of things, even our own career.
Yep.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Yes, Maria. Yes to all that you said. Any other question? I know that is already at the top of the hour. Was our limit, Thomas? Sorry.
We still have
Yeah.
30 minutes if you
Oh,
want.
okay.
Maybe from my side, Raquel, is there, let me say, a ranking in your mind in the power skills, or what, or in your experience, or are they all evenly powerful, so to say?
Oh, very good question. I believe they all are important from different perspectives, okay, for different things. I would say the most common one, and we really should be amazing, is really the communication, right? Leadership is also very important. How do we bring people with us? It's so important. How are we able to collaborate with others is so important, right? All the emotional intelligence that I've included in leadership, it's so important as well. Problem solvers, somehow, one way or another, we are all problem solvers. We just need to be better in bringing others also in solving those problems as well. Because as project managers, we usually are not the ones solving really the problem, right? What we are is very good, or we should be very good in bringing others to solve the problem. So it goes again to the leadership, right? And then, Marco, growth mindset is for me a must. And not only because you need to continue learning, because we always have different methodologies or different processes or different tools, right, to learn. But if you want to progress in your career, you really need to master it. You really need to be adaptable. You need to be flexible, right? And that comes with a growth mindset. So you ask me to rank them. I'm not sure if I'm able to rank them, because I believe all of them are so, so important as a project manager. But if you really want a ranking, I would say probably communication would be the must for me.
Okay, thanks.
Well,
You're
from my
welcome.
perspective, these power skills mentioned are not mutually exclusive. They overlap a lot. And if you want to be a good leader, you have to communicate well. So it's give and take. You need to have a balance, and it's also situational. So sometimes maybe communication is not the best thing, but tackling the problem is the most important thing. It depends on where you are. Anyhow, a question to you, Raquel, and I have an answer, but maybe your answer. What is the problem?
Oh, very good. Problem is something that have a negative impact. However, the result can be an opportunity as well, right? So for me, that's what is a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I once read, it's not for me, from a philosopher. I don't recall who it is. He said, a problem is when we don't know what to do. And
Well,
and once we know what to do, we just do it, and it's not a problem anymore. So that's one definition. And I like this very much. Another definition, or no, let's say statement about problems, is from a person who is dead some 20 years or so, Eckhoff. If you Google him, they have some videos on YouTube, Eckhoff, and he said that it's better to dissolve a problem, so to make it go away, than to solve it, because solving a problem means that you have to identify a solution, implement it, test it, and so on. It's full of effort. But if you just make the problem go away, for some reason, if you change the context, then it's the easier thing to do. And by the way, being a team leader for some time, and if team members come to me and say, "Oh, I have a problem, Thomas, I have a problem," calm down. What is the problem? And I can assure you, in 50% of the cases, there is no problem in the end after this discussion. So if you change your perspective, if you change the context, the framing, then maybe problems just are dissolved.
Yep, that's true. What I'm not sure if I agree, and I have to think more about that, is the first one that you mentioned, that is the problem is something that we don't know. Is everything that I don't know a problem? Because I don't know lots of different things. Is all of that a problem for me? Maybe not, right?
Well, the full sentence was, the problem is if you don't know what to do.
Oh, what to do, okay.
We have a situation, and now we have to do something, or nothing.
And then it's only a problem if I don't know what to do. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Any other question?
What is the problem for you, audience? So, can you agree with these kind of thoughts about problems?
We don't have problems, only challenges. Very good.
That is a challenge, a problem.
Yeah.
Could be, that's...
I was just reading about the grand challenges, which are the thing, pandemic or global warming or United Nations SDGs and so on. These are the grand challenges. And so some people think project management is very well positioned to solve them. But, it's... yeah, Maria, you're right. It's an opportunity to learn. And I think these grand challenges are defined as problems, but as very big, hairy problems, big problems, difficult, complex. And we really don't know what to do, Maybe we have an idea to do this and that, but does it solve the problem? Probably not,
In the end, I think it goes also...
Sorry, Marco, go ahead.
Goes a bit into the discussion, what is risk, what is opportunity, and it depends a lot on what sign you put in front of it, a plus or a minus, depending on how you read the specific situation. Often, not.
Yeah, it's a perspective.
Exactly. I was about to say that is exactly the perspective, because sometimes we just say we have so many complex problems to solve, and actually when we step back and look to those problems, they are only problems because we do really a big thing about them, right? But they are not really big problems. Yeah, it's around the perspective, and it's around how the stakeholders also get those and how much impact it will get to them, right, as well. So it's interesting to see that.
To think it further, if a problem is only a problem if we have the perspective that's a problem, that's negative, positive, or even not solvable, then problems are subjective.
Yep.
What is a problem for you might not be a problem for me, even in the same situation. Because
Absolutely.
I know what I would do in your situation, but you don't know, and you don't trust me, and whatever, These are a lot of thoughts about problems.
It's an interesting topic.
I have an issue, which is quite interesting, if you would like to listen. So I have for one of my projects, the project sponsor, he is very, very forgetful, close to Alzheimer, close to retirement, and it's complete chaos. I never managed to really establish, like, I put in place documents for change requests. I try to make everything very strict, but the problem is he doesn't read. He doesn't just, it's very like, I have a change request document. He can put the same change request line after line because he forgot and didn't read that the line was there before. And then it's so difficult. So I need to manage, I have so many other projects and I need to manage other people as well, not just him. So it always gets so bad on my nerves. Like I cannot,
Yeah.
I'm really hoping like he's supposed to leave soon, but it's, I don't know how, like I tried everything that I learned in the PMI and it just doesn't work. So I don't know if you have any tips on how to manage that, because it's like everything he has to do, I need to be there for him and he forgets it. The next day he will ask the same question. And it's
Your
urgent
problem,
all the
Anna,
time.
is that he's a very key stakeholder. That's
Yes.
the problem, because if it was not so key and doesn't really have any impact, problem was not really a problem for you, right? But he's the sponsor. Did you try to have regular meetings with him to try to control the things that he says as well?
Yeah, now we have every week we have a meeting, and I think it's getting better, but it's still not 100%.
If the
And it's
problem
also,
is
I
really,
don't have that much time to have daily meetings with him, for example.
of course, daily meetings is a bit too much, and I'm sure that for him will be also too much, right? But the problem is that if his capacity is not aligned with what you need, you have a problem with the sponsor, right? The sponsor is not the
Yes.
right one for the project. So that is a different problem.
But that
right?
is not in my hands because he is from
Of
the
course.
customer side. So he is employed by the customer. So I have no saying in.
Yeah, yeah. What I believe, you cannot change the way you will do things, because if he forgets, it's like that, and you cannot control that. What you can control is the impact of his decisions and what he's saying in your project, right? And even that, you can control at an extent. You cannot really control everything, right? But you can try to have the meetings with him. You can try to bring topics to that discussion, that to make sure that if you have, for example, a meeting, try to talk with him about that meeting and the outcomes that you want to bring to that meeting and the inputs for that meeting, that maybe he has everything written for the meeting and he doesn't forget and says a different thing, for example, right? So what I'm trying to say is work with him directly, and that takes lots of time, but work with him directly to minimize the impacts that those things may have until he leaves. Hopefully he will leave soon.
Yes, because the
But
impacts on the projects are quite big because
exactly.
of his lack of memory, I think. It's impacting the decisions he makes. So sometimes we go in production with things that are really not suitable for production. And yeah.
That's
Can you
not good at
escalate
all.
these to his leadership?
No.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Through your
Unfortunately,
leadership, I mean.
to your leadership, I would say.
To my leadership, yes, they know, but his leadership, it's
Maybe they don't have anyone else, right?
Yeah.
And they need to put him probably here because it's his role to be there. Yeah, I would say that continue bringing those problems for sure to your leadership. And if you see openness from the other side, try to bring those as well. I would say, and someone was mentioning these as well, without pointing fingers and putting fault in anyone, right? Just share the impact that is having with facts. Bring facts to show the impact, and at the same time try to minimize that impact. As soon as you decide something with him, try to make sure that you mention it was decided, it's here written, right? Make sure that it's not only for him, but for others as well, that others can see also the decision. And that is a way of communicating directly, instead of having him then to decide and communicate, imagine, because then you will communicate a different thing, right? So it is important that you are very, very aligned with him and try to minimize the impact that he has. But it's not an easy thing to go through, because obviously he is a sponsor.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, don't have really the magic solution for you.
I know, I tried. I tried a lot of things. I've been working with him for 7 years, and it's getting worse and worse. Yeah. So imagine my patience.
Do you have a good relationship with him?
Yes, he's a very nice guy. That's the problem. Also.
Did you try to have that conversation with him? I'm a very straightforward person. I could imagine myself to have that conversation with him.
Oh no, he is.
Could you see yourself having?
He's very like, oh, I forgot. Like, oh, you have such a good memory. He takes the blame for a lot of things, but it's very frustrating.
I can
imagine.
Because
we need to do a project multiple times sometimes. So it's on the achievement part, it's very difficult.
But it seems that you have a good relationship with him. So be just friendly and say, listen, before you decide anything, come to me and maybe we decide together. Just to make sure that we consider everything that was decided before, all the things that we have here, just try that he doesn't make those decisions alone. That can really have a huge impact, and then you need to fix them, right? So try to be part of that decision, to bring the information to him. And then once you decide, try to be you to communicate to everyone at the same time, to avoid that then he says a different thing. That is what comes to my mind right now.
He doesn't say a different thing with other people. So he never tried to put the blame on our company, or he just says that it's his fault. It's okay. We will redo it.
That is not good as well. Although it's good that he's accountable for his mistakes, but it's not good that he needs to do it, right? So yeah, I would say, and not being in the middle of the situation, which obviously is a completely different thing, but I would say maybe help him, and support him in the decisions and bring him the information and say, listen, if you want to have this conversation before this meeting or before that, maybe we can just have a quick chat to align ourselves. And like that, maybe you are helping him and helping yourself at the same time.
Yep. Okay. I will try, because he needs to be so he needs to bring all the requirements from his company side. So I might try something that's a good idea. I might try to get involved in those meetings that he has in his company, so that I can also listen to what he tells me afterwards.
Anna, it's an interesting problem, and we had a long discussion on it. There are also some good tips in the chat. No, read the chat, maybe copy it. So there are some good ideas there. And I think the main point, what Raquel tried to do and others, was really to change perspectives and to see all the options you might have. Gottfried, you raised your hand during the discussion. You wanted to say something to the topic?
No. I was just it was just in frustration, feeling frustration with, and it was not a comment.
Okay. Good. We are approaching the end. Raquel, Anna, interesting discussion, and I'm not sorry that I'll try to interrupt here a little bit, because I know it could go on and on and on, and Anna, I hope you can benefit from some of the comments and from the ideas of Raquel, and maybe you can sign up for Raquel's one-to-one coaching and mentoring.
Yeah.
And then, you can have another discussion there. So, any burning issue from your side? Anybody has something? No. Okay. May I remind you to look at the Mentimeter and give us your survey results, and then let me see here to close the meeting. So we had Raquel here, and at the Mentimeter, you have again the Mentimeter, but it's also in the chat. You can just click on it and answer the 5 questions. The next event, we have, as I said, 2 events every month. And in May, we have already events by Monika Strachel. It's a German name, but you know, she's actually from Poland. And we have Rishikesh Deshpande. It's not a German name, but he is actually from Germany. So you see how international and intercultural we are. And we have Maria from Greece in June, and we have another session in June that is not yet contained here. Also somebody from Poland. So sign up. You know, these are always meetings where we say we don't ask for a specific topic, but we ask for great speakers for their favorite topic, and I think this is one of the success factors we have here. Join our mission. So if you want, we are an international team, and if you want to volunteer, and you can come to us and join our team. Maria is the lead of the team, and you see we have people from 5 countries. The chapter also has other interesting volunteering opportunities, so just come. And here is, as promised on the last slide, the PDU code. I thank you for showing up here. We had 46 people booking for the event, and in the end, 30 joined. And thanks again, Raquel, for presenting this interesting topic and also having a hot Q&A after that, you know, with some good points. And I hope you come again, and yeah, was really appreciating your attendance. Now, I give you back 7 minutes of this day so you can go outside, look at the sun, and enjoy the evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.